Hello and welcome to episode 73 of Tom's Hirschsprung's podcast. A slightly different one for you today, where we are going to talk about the dual diagnosis of both Hirschsprung's and Down syndrome. And I am delighted to be joined by Ashley Matthews. Ashley, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm
Thanks
excited
so
to be
much.
here.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for coming on. And one other thing I should mention before we start is we are both Reach ambassadors as well.
Yes.
So yes, that's how we first came across each other.
hmm
But
Yeah.
we are here to talk about your son Milo and his dual diagnosis of Hirschsprung's and Down syndrome. Would you like to take us from the beginning?
Take you from the start. Okay. So when Milo was born, we had no idea that he had Down syndrome. And I don't know that there's a way to test for Hirschsprung's in utero. I don't think so.
Not that I
But
know of. Some people may know more
okay.
than I do, but
Yeah, I
not that
just
I
wondered
know
about that. I don't think so. Not that we would have had any clue what that meant.
of.
But we were supposed to have a natural birth, not at the hospital, at a birthing center. But I ended up having preeclampsia and we had to go to the hospital, which was really terrifying. I ended up being in the hospital for 6 days and it was pretty scary at different points in the process. But when he was born, they kind of whisked him away, and I was so out of it because of the magnesium they had me on for preeclampsia, that I just didn't know what was going on. And they kept like kind of, there's a lot of people in the room and they kept kind of like whispering. And my husband was kind of looking over like what's happening. And then a nurse brought him to me and she said, this isn't easy news to give, but he has Down syndrome. And we're just like, what? And she kind of hesitated to give him to me. And I guess it didn't occur to me until later that like some people may not be like welcoming with open arms. So I was just like, give me my baby. Give me my baby. And we kind of just went from there. And it was like such a whirlwind because um, right as we got wheeled to the mother baby room, a nurse came to check on him. And this was maybe an hour after he was born. A nurse came and was to check on both of us. And it's funny, I'm still like in touch with this nurse because she may have actually saved his life because she saw that he was turning like purple and blue and wasn't getting enough oxygen. And so she like took him and just ran to the NICU. And we were all, because my family was there and we didn't even tell anybody he had Down syndrome at first because they said they were going to do some testing and all of the above. And we were just reeling from the news and also from how I was in bad shape. And so they left, and a couple hours later, we get to go to the NICU. And I mean, he's hooked up to everything. Like there's an IV coming out of his head. There's just, it was terrifying. It was truly terrifying. And that just started our NICU journey. And it was, I believe it was 10 days later, like he wasn't feeding right. He wasn't pooping. He didn't pass the meconium. And he started to throw up this like bright green bile. And so they went and did a test and they came back and um, said, okay, we're going to have to transfer him to a different hospital, which thankfully we have two like really amazing hospitals near our house. And so we were only 20 minutes from the hospital, but we stayed at Ronald McDonald right across from where the hospital was. And um, we, yeah, we just, it was such a whirlwind. They packed him up in this big, incubator type of thing and transferred him by ambulance to another hospital. And then at 11 days old, he had a 7.5 hour surgery. And we were just I mean, it was just so crazy. It was just so crazy because we've never even heard of Hirschsprungs. That's when they came to us and said, this is what this is. And thankfully, we had a surgeon there who knew about it and, was fairly versed. She was a general surgeon. She wasn't a specialist. We didn't even know to go to a specialist. Um, and his surgery was successful for what it was, not successful in the way that we don't have to still do daily, every other day maintenance. But yeah, it was so stressful and it was not the way we anticipated everything going. And, by the time we got home, we thought that everything was going to be okay and fine, but then it just kind of started this whole trying to figure out what was going on. He had a really hard time passing gas. He had a really hard time getting any poop out. He was just miserable at different points. So we ended up with several different hospital admissions and learning how to do anal irrigations. And, we were still doing that. I can't remember what it's called, but it was this long metal something that we came home at the hospital with to make sure everything stayed open.
Yeah, like a metal kind of like metal rod.
Yes,
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 I
metal
have.
rod.
Yeah, I have had
Hmm.
several people who've said that they came home with that from the hospital, a nice present
Yeah,
that the hospital gave them.
nice present. Yeah, I can't remember what it's called. But that started our journey of just like learning everything we can about Hirschsprung's, about the colon, about like how a dual diagnosis with that plays its part, because it's so much harder for him to communicate to us. Like I was telling you that he didn't have any words until he was 4. So we were just kind of like trying to figure out what in the world was happening when he would be crying about it. And usually it was gas. Usually, I mean, he's just stayed distended. So we started enemas really early, and we started with the really small glycerin ones. And those made him cramp horribly. And any GI doctor too that we saw, any specialists, that all they could tell us was use Miralax, take Miralax, see if Miralax will work. And we're just like, number one, Miralax is poison. That's my personal opinion.
Okay.
And lots of other parents too, but Miralax has lots of bad ingredients in it, and
Right.
it's not helpful for gut health,
Okay.
gut and your brain connection. And it didn't help either. It didn't really do very much. So a lot of like top down things that we tried, we finally have found a supplement over the last 6 years of trying different things that seemingly helping. But he can somewhat go on his own, but it's not enough. I try to explain this to people because it's like, okay, the goal is for him to poop on his own, yes, but when he does, it's not a complete elimination. So he ends up like with like 4 or 5 poops, and then we get into rash territory. And in rash territory, I got a whole other story for you.
Go for it.
Woo! And we just end up like, it's what's the way that you say this? What's that? What one rockin' is a hard place, and
Oh, in
please
between a
edit this
rock and a
out.
hard place.
Rock and a hard
Yeah.
place. Thank you. My brain just glitched. Um, so when he does go, he ends up still having all of this trapped gas, and it's never really like formed. It's never like, it's just hard to figure out. And when he is able to go, sometimes it's like, well, what changed? Because he has food aversion, so he eats like less than 12 foods. Like
Right.
he still eats pouches at 6 years old. And so he's very limited in the things that he eats. So when something has changed, it's like, what could it what could it possibly have been? What changed? When he gets more exercise, when he's on the beach, especially when he's running in the sand, he will be able to go better. I'm like, okay, that's our call. Then we need to move to the beach.
Yeah, yeah. Just go and live by the beach and run around
Let's
a
just
lot.
get him by the beach. I think it's like medically necessary at this point. Um, but so we tried everything, I will say. And we got to a point in 2023, and we were just staying in maintenance mode with the enemas. We switched up to the saline enemas, and we used the adult version, this fleet enemas. And we've been using these for years now, even when he was really small, because the kid version of these just wasn't enough. And so we switched to that, and we run into a lot of hydration issues because he just has a hard time drinking a lot of water. He only drinks water, and he drinks a Kate Farms meal replacement milk, plant based, which his diet is a whole big thing about this too. I think that's the thing with being neurotypical versus Down syndrome too. Like, eating the right things, and if you don't have food aversions, you can't understand how hard it is to like hand your child peanut butter crackers every single day of his life, and it's the only thing he'll eat, and oatmeal or yogurt or these pouches, Cheerios, his milk, and I'm nearing the end of the list. Like,
Yeah,
it's
you said
exactly.
about 12 foods,
Yeah,
and that must be incredibly tough because when obviously with being a stomach condition, obviously diet is going
yeah,
to be, huge.
huge,
Getting
absolutely.
fiber and whatnot.
Yes. Yeah. So we do supplement a lot. And thankfully, the pouches, we do Serenity Kids and Cerebelly. So there's lots of different things in them, but there's like sweet potatoes and spinach and olive oil is one that he really likes. And having like the fatty, healthy fat in there, avocado oil and that types of those types of things, fiber added in, and a probiotic. A lot of times we can make it work. But yeah, like him eating whole foods would be amazing, and I think it would help him so much. But I can't even get him to even attempt to try it yet. Yet that doesn't mean he won't. Um, so we got to like a sort of a maintenance phase, but then all of a sudden he had this flare, and his enemas weren't going well. He was crying really hard every time we tried to do the enemas. His stomach had this like strange indention, and it's like I tell people that I feel like I know his anatomy better than my own, and like I'm gonna notice something is off in any way with him. And so that was kind of strange, and so we started to go to a new specialist about 2 hours away from here, and they suggested we try the Botox procedure. And I'd read lots of different things about Botox. I had read lots of people said it helped, it worked, like they had to do several rounds of it, but it was okay. Some people said it did nothing. It just is so individual, like all Hirschsprung's patients, right? Hirschsprung's,
Unfortunately, so yes.
right? It's just so unique to the person, the individual. No two are going to be the same. And so, against my better judgment, I had this like gut feeling about it because over the years, my intuition as a mom has spiked because he's been nonverbal. He was nonverbal for 4 years, because he's had all these challenges, because he's unaware of his safety at all. Like all of these things, I've had to project my energy out to make sure where he was at all times. And I tell other people that like if I'm in another room and he's in this room, I can almost tell you exactly what he's doing. And it's just me having to be so hyper vigilant, which is not great for your nervous system, I will say. But it is something that I've had to attune myself to for years now. And my intuition told me, don't do this. This is not going to go well. Don't do this. And I felt like we were kind of just stuck because we went and did an x-ray, and his colon, even though we've been doing enemas every other day, his colon was completely full. It was enlarged, and it was like in a scary position. So we went ahead with it. And then that is what was the catalyst for like where I am now in my life. Like that decision right then led me to now, which was basically 6 weeks of plus of the worst kind of torture you can imagine. He had an atypical reaction to the Botox, and it was we went from no poop at all to constant stooling for 6 weeks. I'm talking constant. So imagine what that does to your bottom. He had a like second degree, essentially like a second degree chemical burn because of the acid, and his butt was like in breakdown territory, like wound care, emergency rooms, like trying everything under the sun that we could do to try to help protect his skin from this like constant stool. We were putting him in the tub to try to spray him off. Like there was no wiping, there was none of that. We tried like even these like bandages. I have like two, thankfully I've got 3 nurses in our family, and so they were like here with us. They were getting us products. We were trying troubleshooting every single thing. We tried all of the cream methods, the barrier sprays, the stoma powders, we tried like a honey version. We spent at least $1,000 on just products to try, because we would mix up this whole concoction of things, and then he'd poop again, and then you'd have to like wipe it all off again. And we kept being told to create like this barrier with the cream and then just wipe off the top part. And that was just like not a thing. That was not a thing.
No.
I don't know if other people have told you about this, but
No. This is the first. This is the first I've heard.
rash and like breakdown in this, because I was down like rabbit holes, because I'm like, I can figure this out. I can do this. I'm a troubleshooter. I'm neurodivergent as hell. So like I will go down whatever rabbit hole I have to go down. Became a new special interest. Like, how do I fix this? And turns out I couldn't. I literally couldn't. And it was the most devastating thing to figure out that like we just have to wait this out. We have to wait it out. And I mean, it was horrific. I had a job that I mentioned in Texas for almost a decade that I had to quit. And starting now, like we finally got Medicaid and Cap C for him, and my nervous system just collapsed. Like I couldn't keep up with the just constant stress. And thankfully my husband owns his business too, so he was able to be here a lot more. But I was trying to get help, and there was no help to be given. There's like to try to get like a nurse or somebody to come in. Like, you would not believe the hoops that we have to jump through here in America to get something like that to happen. I couldn't make it work. And so yeah, it was just, there's people I've seen on Facebook and on different places that have had these experiences, and I would not wish that on anybody. But I saw those and I thought, oh God, I hope we never go through that. And then we did. And so now when he has any kind of irritation or any kind of anything, my husband and I are like, we got this. Like we have seen the worst of the worst. And we came out of it, and he came out of it, and like the whole time, like the only thing, Milo is just like such a light that he he just like if he were as miserable as we were all the time, then it would have been horrific. But he was just upset and mad when we had to be changing him, which was a lot. um I'm talking like probably 20 diapers a day
Wow.
or more. um and it would be like every 20 minutes we would get him changed, and then he would poop again, like while he was on the changing table. So we just go right back to the bath, because you couldn't we had these like spray saline type things. And I just like, wound care is so hard.
Mm.
And I like that I was down that whole, like, when you think of elderly people in nursing homes who are on bed, or bed bound, and then they get these wounds. And so that's where we were. Like, we were in this place of like, what do we do with breakdown that's this bad, that's constantly having something happen to it? So anyways, all of that to say, we made it through, and it helped him a little bit be able to go somewhat. But we still do every other day enemas. We use the Navina irrigation system. I don't know if you're familiar with this or not, but we got approved for this and for Cap C because of what we went through. Because
Right.
I had tried to get Cap C for years. And Cap C, I don't know if you're familiar, but here it is for medically fragile children. It's, you get Medicaid.
Okay.
So you can have a caregiver come into your home and help you, or you can get paid as a caregiver if you end up having to quit your job, like I did. Um, and it's not enough, but it's something, and I can have respite care. And we did get finally approved for this type of treatment, whereas we wouldn't have had that before. So yeah, we keep up with everything: his food, the way his stomach looks, how much gas he's passing, the supplements, the enemas. And um, we're just hoping at some point it's going to become easier for him. And I think once he does start to eat more whole foods and can have more formed stool, then that will be helpful. We won't run into the irritation and the rash side of things as often. But the other thing is, like, he's super active. He's super active, and he's in school, and they know all about this. But to have someone at school take care of his bottom the way that I would is isn't as easy. And so he's running around the playground, then he comes home, and I check his diaper, and I'm like, you
Mhm.
had poop in there, and they didn't know, because the whole smearing thing, people don't like think about.
No. And I guess also at the moment, he's not necessarily going to communicate to them
Yeah,
that
he's not going to
there's an
communicate that.
issue.
No, no. And that's the other thing. And to finish my thought about him being miserable, he just when we were changing his diaper, he was mad, but the rest of the time he was happy-go-lucky, his regular self, and that like saved our lives, I think. Like, truly. But now he's just wide open, the wildest child. And he doesn't have that ability, like, to say, hey, I've pooped and I need some help getting this changed. We're working on getting there. It's like an IEP goal of ours. But that's another part of the dual diagnosis that makes it really difficult. And he can't tell us necessarily when he's hurting because of gas, or if he's hurting because he hurt his finger, or if he hurt, like, I have to like constantly tune into him. And yeah, it's something else.
It is a minefield, and certainly
It
sounds like,
is a minefield. That's a perfect way to put it.
and you, in some ways, I guess there are certain parts that you know what to expect and can prepare for, and there
Hmm.
are other parts you just can't.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think that sounds to me like possibly the most difficult thing is the things that you just can't quite prepare for.
Yeah. Um, we were taken not exactly by surprise because I had read so much about it. I knew this was a possibility and I had prepared as much as I could based off of what other parents have done. But I felt so betrayed by the specialists because they did not send us home and could not help us throughout in any point. It was just like, oh, try this. And I'm like, I've tried it. Well, I'm sorry. I mean, it was just, and taken into the emergency room, I literally had a doctor say to me, well, you know more than I do. And I'm like, holy shit. Okay.
Yeah,
Because that's what a parent wants to hear when I'm in the emergency room with my child, that I know more than he does. So from all of this, I was like, okay, well, I I basically feel I feel like I have all this information about Down syndrome and about Hirschsprung's, but they live in silos. So when I actually go and see specialists or I see doctors, and they don't know enough about the two together, they don't know about enough about Hirschsprung's in general. Like I need there to be something that people can go to, and something for parents and families like ours to go to and get this information. So I sat down one day during all of that, and I found this paper so I could show you. um, I was like, this is what we're going to do. And I
wow.
wrote
And
down
and
all the things.
for audio
And
listeners, there's a lot of words there.
there
Just
is a
trust
lot.
me, there's a lot of words there.
And I grouped it by what to expect for newly diagnosed, Down syndrome and Hirschsprung's dual diagnosis, the challenges, the gut brain connection, the communication issues, low tone factors, what caregivers should know, future planning, all travel considerations. And then I wrote out all of the things for treatments, symptoms to look out for, rash care, resources, and like about like for Down syndrome and Hirschsprung's community stories, and finding your support team, and like building a building a group of specialists that you can talk to and go in and go, okay, this is where we're at. I need some help. And we've basically gotten to that point now, I'm thankful to say, um, which is a lot. But so I was just kind of looking one day, and then I ran across Reach, and I I reached out to them.
Yeah, I always say that, and I think I need to have another word rather than reached out because you can't say
I
you
know.
reached out to reach. It doesn't sound
I
right.
know. I say that all the time, and I'm like, God, I need something else. But I reached out to them, and I heard immediately back from Isabel and Eric, and they were like, we need to do this. Absolutely. Yes. And so I met with them and I showed them this stuff, and they were like, we need, they're like, absolutely, you should have your own website if you want to do that, or you can work with us and we can put it on our website and it may be able to reach more people. And I was like, yes, let's do that. That'd be fantastic, because God knows I don't need another project to start. um and so that's what started the whole DSHD microsite. And they were so fantastic to work with, and got to run all this information through their board. And there's still more that we could add, but it's a fantastic start. um, and it is a smaller population of people, but I feel like all of the information that you find on Hirschsprung's is not going to necessarily benefit dual diagnosis families like ours. And the potty training issue, and the just the communication, and then also understanding that kids with Down syndrome have hypotonia, which is like relaxed muscles. And so it's not just, I mean, it's everything is relaxed. So I don't know. It's just,
Think that
yeah,
the idea of a sort of branch off, if anybody hasn't seen the Reach website and the Down syndrome sort of tab that goes
hmm,
along with it, really, really insightful. I have had a couple of people, some who've been on the podcast, some who haven't been on the podcast, who have dual diagnosis and have reached out to me and have said, do you have any resources? Do you know anything else about, you know, dual diagnosis of Down syndrome and Hirschsprung's? And I always point them towards that site because
good.
I
That's
think
great.
there's not only obviously as we've talked about Milo's journey and story, but there's
Hmm.
also some other really just interesting bits and pieces on there and some really good resources as well. So if anybody is listening, and whether you have dual diagnosis or diagnosis of Hirschsprung's, really good site just in general, but especially your microsite, I think is, and it's very sort of cleanly presented. It's not sort of because you couldn't, as we've just seen with your lovely bit of paper, you can have a lot of information and you can sort of
Hmm.
pack a lot of information, but it is not, it's not sort of stacked with 3,000 words. It's very clean. It's very user friendly is probably what I'd give to that.
I
Um,
agree. Yeah.
yeah,
And Isabel really had to like rein me in on that too, because I was like, okay, but we've got this we need to talk about. But they knew because their son, Adrian, has Down syndrome and Hirschsprung's as well. So they were, and then she wrote the book and it was amazing. You know, like they're just incredible people. And the work that they've done with that organization is fantastic. And I'm so honored to be an ambassador for them
yeah,
for
no,
sure.
they are brilliant. And I know as
Mm-hmm.
well, we're sort of bouncing around a little bit, but you have mentioned that there are some sort of tips and tricks that
Yes.
you wanted to share with other people, and I'm all for that as well. I mean, every Facebook forum, every Instagram forum that I see, is full of people saying, "Have you tried this cream?
What
Have
do
you
I
done
do?
this? Have you tried
Yeah.
that? Have you tried this?"
Mm-hmm.
And again, not everything is going to work for everybody.
Right.
But I'll always encourage people to share, look, I did this and it worked for me.
Yeah.
So yes, please feel free to share whatever you'd
Okay.
like.
I'm happy to. So tell me what kind of time we have.
18 minutes.
All right. Okay. So I bought this for Milo because I wanted to try to help like explain to him about the colon. Um, and so it's cute as it can be. But for the first thing, and I know a lot of Hirschsprung's parents are going to know this, but like the belly massage is extremely important. That's one of the things that it's my go-to when I know he's having a hard time with gas, when his stomach is distended, like he needs that extra massage help. And there's a technique that I do as well when I do the enemas that I'll tell you about. And like, feel free, like, I'm not a medical professional, but I am a very experienced mom, if that helps.
It's
Um,
it's
so,
all right. I've already written the disclaimer. It's already out there. So we're all
okay,
good for
good,
whatever we want to say.
good. So I'm trying to figure out if I need to stand or what. But the way that you do a massage, if you're putting this here, I don't know the best way to do this here. I'm just going to sit down. It needs to be start on your, if you were looking down at yourself for a self massage, let's say, just for ease of use, because depending on what you're looking at,
Yeah.
it needs to be the descending colon is on your left side if you're looking down,
Yeah.
your sigmoid colon and your rectum. Okay. So your massage starts here. And so I just do like a round, circular motion, and it starts there. And I spend a lot of time like on the sort of where the bladder is, but like where the colon comes down, because that's where a lot of the stool ends up kind of getting slightly impacted, and like you can have this sort of like bulge that comes out here where things are trying to push down but you can't quite get it out. So I spend a lot of time like just not mushing, but
Yeah, yeah.
just
Not
doing the circular and pushing down. And then you go over to the top and then you bring it down. And there was like a I love you type of thing that people talk about. So it's like I, and then there's the L, and then you, and then you go all the way up and around.
That's
And
really
then
good.
so I do this a lot. And when I get this here done, and on me, just so you can sort of tell, right?
Yeah,
You're doing this number and you're coming around here and then up and over.
yeah.
And like just in general, like this transition zone, I believe it's called, it there tends to be this like juncture where it comes over here and then comes back down. There tends to be a lot of gas that can get trapped here. So I spend a lot of time here and kind of here.
Hmm.
Like if you're thinking about it in terms of like motility and you're thinking about it of like, okay, well, things are trying to move around in here. Like where does it need the help? And so I spend a lot of time like, and I can feel and hear and go, okay, that's where it is. And then I like just massage, and just that stimulation will help a lot. Um, for an enema, warm warming this is crucial.
Hmm.
Like we put water in the microwave for a minute, stick this down in there for a couple minutes, making sure that it's obviously not too hot,
Yeah.
but making it warm. Um, there's a sweet spot. There's a sweet spot where, but if it is like lukewarm, or if it's gotten a little bit cold, it's going to cause so much more cramping. Cramping is awful. It makes it hurt way worse than it needs to. Um, and because gas is such a big deal for Milo and that distension and like getting his gas out, we have kind of a technique that we use with these, which has over time proved to be really helpful. So I'm going to show sort of how to do that. Um, so he's laying down, all right, and um, okay. So my husband helps with this too because
Okay.
he needs to be able to hold his legs back and not move a ton either. So I squeeze the water all the way up where there's not any bubbles. And when I put it in, I am, let's see, we're here now, like as slow as possible. Slow is the way to go. So you just go like as slow as possible to put this in, because forcing it and he's pushing, bearing down, I just wait until he's like released a little bit, and then I'll push in a little bit more. This enema game for us has been, we've had times where he's like scream crying because either it hurts or there's gas or there's whatever the case may be. So doing this, because we do it so often, as like as intentionally as we can, is really important. Um, and so once we have this in here, I squeeze just a little bit and then I let it out, so that way he can push out some of his own gas into the actual enema. There won't be this space here. It'll just be
Yeah.
just the water, right? So once he pushes it out, it does look like this. But then I can squeeze it to the point where there's not, like, I'm not pushing the gas right back into him. I'm just getting the water. But that part is so important because if you think about it, this water is just kind of like going up and sitting right here. And he's laying down. And it's got to push through whatever stool is here, but there's also gas that's up in here that's like just kind of trapped and trying to get out. And so as I'm doing this, I'm doing kind of the reverse massage. So I'm pushing the saline as far up as I can go, because there is backed up things over here that needs the help. So I do a squishing massage like this. I do pulling down, but then I'm pushing it right back up as well and into this little spot. And just doing that makes that saline get up as further, and that's what you want. You
Yeah.
want it up as far as you can. Because if you don't do any of that, it's just going to sit right here. And a lot of times, if you don't spend that time, they're just going to poop out water. It's just going to be poop water.
Yeah.
Not every time, but like spending that extra time to like make sure it gets in there is really helpful.
And that's
The
on
one
the just for those who are audio listening as well, that's on the left-hand side of you do all the massage on the left-hand side of the colon.
on the descending
Yes.
colon.
Excellent.
Um,
Excellent.
and the sigmoid. So the very lowest part of your colon.
Yeah.
And just trying to get the water pushed up as much as you can and then once he's off the table, he's like, he's such a champion. Like, he's like, I got this. I know what I'm doing. He will go and he'll get in the squat position. He'll lean up against something. We have a yoga ball that he would like get on, and we do this kind of number. I would like to note though, if at any point they're having a super hard time pushing this out, what has helped for us, we have these like chuck pads, like the pads that dogs can pee on. We get those, and I will put one in my lap, and I'll sit Indian style and or crisscross applesauce and sit him in my lap like that, and just having his knees up and being in that sort of leverage position, I can hold his knees and also sort of like rock. And as I'm rocking, it helps to kind of like loosen things up enough where he can push it out. And sometimes, like if we're in a hairy situation where it's really difficult, I mean, I'm like bear hugging him, and he's having to push and bear against me with his legs because he's having that hard of a time. And of course we don't want that, but that's sometimes our reality. Another option is to lay on the left-hand side and pull up the right leg. And when I'm doing that, because he's in this position and the leg is pushing up against the ascending and pushing here, I'm holding his leg and I'm massaging at the same time and trying to help him get that out, because sometimes it's just hard, like depending on what he's eaten, depending on like whatever the case may be, sometimes it's just hard, and sometimes he screams through the whole thing, and it is awful. Like, so we do this every other night, and we usually are just like, yeah, it's our routine, this went well, like everything looked good, like I am like on point. I'm like, what did it look like? What did it smell like? What's the texture? Like all of those things. Like poop is like diagnostic for me at this point. It's just kind of like, okay, this looked good. We're good. But sometimes it's not like that. Sometimes it's really hard. And sometimes he cries a lot. And sometimes it's just, me and my husband are just hugging each other like, oh my God, that was horrific. But he got it out. And we've been in positions before where he couldn't get it out, and then you have to do the anal irrigation. And that's where this guy comes in. And it is a pressurized irrigation system. These tubes hook into here. It works with your smartphone.
Oh, wow.
And you put in, your GI doctor will tell you how much water, but the tube will be connected to this and also to that Navina smart part. And there's two different tips. This obviously will be much easier to watch on YouTube, but there is a cone option. And then there is a balloon catheter option. This scared us to death when we were taught twice, because we were terrified to do this because it's pressurized and because you blow up a balloon and because there is a potential of perforation, and that scared me to death. So we switched to the cone because we didn't have to worry about the balloon. And We may at some point be in stocostomy territory. We may at some point be in a bag territory. But right now, everything is bottom up, and he's over it. He's tired of it. It's not something he wants to do, but my husband always reminds me, he's like, this is his normal. This isn't, it's never been anything other than this. This is what he knows. And while he doesn't like it, once it's done, he's totally over it. Totally over it and back to business. But it's sad because, I don't want him to have to go through this all the time. And we say, okay, it's time to get your poopy out. And he goes, and we're like, he wants to he's like, okay, well, can I take a nap instead? Or can I go to, because we a lot of times do it at night. And he's like, no, I'm just tired. I'm so tired. I can't do this. I don't feel like doing this right now.
Yeah.
And it's awful. It's awful.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
At the same time, why spend the extra energy being upset about something that you can't change right now?
Yeah.
Like our mindset is really important, because sure, I could be super upset that this is our life, that poop is my life.
Yeah.
But there's so much good. There's so much that it doesn't take away from us. And I feel like I can help people. I feel like I'm in a position now that I wish I knew this when I was, when I had an infant, when I had a toddler, when he was screaming and I didn't know what. And just a tidbit, everybody, if they have a fever, if they feel sick, if they're fussy, if they're whatever, do an enema. If you have Hirschsprungs, do an enema. It is that. 9 times out of 10, it is that. And if it's not that, then you've already ruled it out and they're cleared out and you don't have to worry about it. But like, just you have to pay attention to so many different things when you have the dual diagnosis. And yeah, it just
definitely,
it is what it is.
Definitely. But I just want to say thank you for that, because I think there will be quite a few people that take a lot away from that. And like you said, you've described it really, really well, but might well be easier to see on YouTube. So
Yeah.
if you're listening, so if you've just finished listening to this and you think, actually, I've heard it, but actually, I probably want to just see how it works, please check out the YouTube channel as well, because you've both demonstrated and explained it really, really well. But
Good. I'm glad.
some things are a visual thing.
Yeah, some things really are. There was one other thing I was going to tell you about, was rash care. I don't know if we have time for that, but I can send information if you want to just link to it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I will link to that. I will link to
Okay.
that. Yes. So please, I'll link that on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all bits and pieces. But yes, thank you ever so much for coming on, sharing Milo's story, and obviously sharing the hints and tips as well. And I know it goes without saying, but I'll say it anyway. I wish you, your husband, and Milo all the very, very best for the future.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. I'm so excited that you're doing this, because it's just, people need to know.
It's my pleasure, but doesn't work without great guests. So thank you so much.
And I'm so glad that you are living your life and showing other people that it can be done. And, you didn't let it stop you from playing cricket and doing all the things. So that's awesome.
No, thank you so much.
Thank you.